So this question seems to spark a never-ending debate within the drumming community. The problem is, there's no way to define the best in terms of music. For comparison, in athletics we have things like heights, times, distances, speeds, and a person at the end of the line with a stopwatch. You would never ask who's the best athlete because there are multiple events in sports that all measure different things. And the same goes for music, but it gets even trickier. In music, we have things like subjectivity, creativity, styles, Luke Bryan, Katy Perry, and Lionel Richie. A good example would be if we set every professional drummer down at a 5-piece kit and let him solo for a little while. You'd get so many different grooves, styles, rudiments, and everything would be different. Ultimately, some people would like certain solos over others, and you're not going to get very far if you try and argue that blast beats are better than quintuplets. What I'm trying to say is that not everyone's vision of talent or success is going to be the same. So in order to define the best at something, we're going to need some sort of measurement standard, like a speed or a distance. And unfortunately, music doesn't have any of these. There are no formulas or definitive answers. Defining the why behind the best drummer becomes very difficult. A couple measurements frequently introduced in this debate are technicality and influence, neither of which are a very well-rounded representation of skill. So case in point, if someone said that Mike Mangini was the best drummer on earth, we maybe could reach an agreement that he's at the top of his genre, but you're never going to be able to prove that he's a better drummer than Thomas Lang. That's why multiple judges were introduced to judge multiple categories at the Guitar Center Drum-Off. And even after a winner was selected, there was still a war in the YouTube comment section debating their decision. So on the flip side, if I said that Ringo Starr was the best drummer that ever lived, a lot of people would say, dude can't even play a drum roll. And the argument against that would be, modern music wouldn't be the same without his contribution. So I ask you guys, who's better? Mangini because he's more technical, or Ringo because he's had a bigger influence? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Okay, so even if there was a universal measurement standard, as soon as you introduce stylistic limitations into the mix, the best becomes even more challenging to define. Example, take guys like Devin Taylor, Aaron Staccaner, and Taylor Hawkins. All phenomenal players. But when you put them in a gig with the White Stripes, they're all limited by the type of music that they're expected to play. From the fans that paid for tickets and the artists that they're supporting. So this often becomes an inhibitor when comparing drummers. We're comparing people who have been successful playing 4 on the floor to people who have been successful playing everything in 13/16. I would also argue that the cream of the crop players could fill any role that they were put in if they were given time to prepare for it. It's all they do, it's all they've spent their entire life doing. So there's no doubt in my mind that great jazz and gospel drummers could blast beat if they wanted to, and vice versa. So I'd love to see 66 Samus smash some smooth jazz in a future video of his on the off chance that he sees this. I'm also 100% certain that Travis Barker could bust out some Animals as Leaders chops if he had enough time to learn the tunes. Okay, so how are some musicians better than others? And I'm going to argue that there are fundamentals that every musician must learn in order to fill their basic role as a player. And that's your technicality. But after a point, players become so talented that their variety makes them unique in a certain way. This is when they get their own groove or feel, definitely things that can't be measured. And Steve Gadd is a great example of this. That point is when you go professional with your art, and when that happens, we're now comparing apples and oranges. So who's the best drummer? In my opinion, it's whoever gets you to pick up your sticks that day. Let's stop comparing the skills of professionals and appreciate what they've given us in terms of inspiration. And let's encourage and promote the musician community rather than undermine it. Let's help everyone turn into the best version of themselves, because that's the only best there is in music.